This is a car I restored 6 years ago. I thought I would give it a good inspection to see how it's doing. How well a restoration has been done is reflected in how long it stays looking nice. I'm going to show you the good, the bad, and the thoughts on how to improve next time. Let's start by looking at some pictures from the restoration to see what was done. So the car wasn't in bad condition, but the door bottoms needed welding. The rear arches needed welding, as did the rear sills and a few little sections on the wings. I remember doing a significant amount of rust removal where the rear hood sits. It wasn't a bare metal respray, and there was an amount of filler work to do to get the car straight. I tinted the primer to something closer to red just to help with coverage. The paint I used was water-based by PPG, then PPG DA100 clear coat. The primers were Leclerc and the filler was U-POL. Apart from polishing out some dust, the paint went on well. Looking at it now from a distance, it looks good, but close up it's going to tell the true story. The front wings look good and the bonnet's okay apart from a dent. The doors look okay and so do the sills. I can see some paint shrinkage on the rear scuttle and some sanding scratches in the boot lid. There is also an outline of filler. I've looked closely around the rear wing tops, the arch lips, the front valance, the bonnet lip, and the sills. These are the places rust can usually be found. I can happily report that no rust bubbles are found anywhere on the exterior of the car. The arch lips are used sealant on the inner edge, and I always do this where you have an inner and outer arch which is overlapped. If you don't seal this area with something like Tiger Seal, it's almost guaranteed to rust in a short time. It's only around 5mm width of sealant needed, which wraps around the join. The sealant is painted with the rest of the car and then cavity waxed. The paint defects then. This is the leftover paint from the Renault 5 underside I painted a couple weeks ago. It's obvious to see how much the paint has already shrunken. The left pot was primer and the next two are top coats. You can see how much the small amount of 2K blue has shrunk when compared to the large amount of 2K blue. That's an important observation because the thicker the paint, the longer it will take to fully shrink back. Here is my explanation to why shrinking paint can reveal sanding scratches. So here is our metal panel. Here is the filler layer with an 80 grit sanding scratch. And here is the applied high build primer. After some time, the primer will have shrunk and it will also shrink into the scratch. This could take a couple months or more, depending on how thick the paint layer is. If I was to use stopper, which is a harder sanding finishing filler, then that 80 grit sanding scratch would be much smaller. This is less likely to reveal itself later. Carefully finishing filler work with 180 grit will also help, but to be absolutely sure paint defects like this don't appear over time, I would advise leaving the car in high build primer for a few months before sanding. Customers rarely want to wait that long, and that is a problem. Quite often, paint shrinkage can be rectified by flattening and polishing, providing enough top coat was applied. Metallics can be more troublesome, particularly silver. Even after flattening the clear coat, you can usually still see the sanding scratch in silver metallic. The only way to rectify this is to repaint the car. I hope this helps someone painting their car and they produce a finish that is long lasting.